Welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending on where you are and what time of day you're watching this presentation. This presentation is to fulfill the requirements for University of North Dakota CSCI 565 course. The topic of this presentation is a model-based testing as a validation strategy for unified taxonomy in precision medicine digital twins ecosystems. I know the topic is really large and huge, but we will talk about all of this in this presentation. The future of healthcare is here. So there are a lot of emphasis on healthcare and artificial intelligence, and that's what I'm injecting AI into healthcare, and this topic is about that. What is a digital twin? It is really a shift from traditional static record to more of a dynamic data-driven system. It leverages the data at its source, and it provides predictive analysis, it provides trend analysis, and it does the troubleshooting and testing in a simulated way, which is close to the reality. Now, this can be used in any domain that you want. It can be in healthcare, it can be in avionic, it can be in auto industry, it could be in aerospace, could be in healthcare, as I said, in home automation, in home and building automation, in any area, in banking, in any area, you can use digital twin to simulate and to predict the future of what you want to establish before you actually establish it. So it's an early indicator of what it would be. My focus here, as I mentioned, is on medical domain and in precision medicine. It's to leverage continuous data from the IoT devices, the sensors. It's an Internet of Medical Things sensors, the workflow, the genomic profile, all that data to be able to predict some and diagnose a personal care, to plan a personal care. All of these without subjecting patient to harsh test and treatment of the drugs and the procedures that may have a lot of side effect. So before subjecting a patient to all this, we want to provide a digital twin to apply those treatments on digital twin and see the impact and be able to fine-tune that impact to specifics of that person. So creating a profile of the person and be able to use AI to predict the treatment is really what a digital twin is. And specifically, when we talk about the medical field, we're talking about precision medicine digital twins. So that's what the term is. The key to digital twin in the domain is creation of an ecosystem, right? That be able to point to storages and be able to predict. The key to having such an ecosystem is really have an electronic health record, or in other words, what they call it, a digital health record that connects this heterogeneous data, heterogeneous devices and data across multiple domain. Could be in office domain, could be in the hospital domain, could be in the emergency room, could be in the urgent care, genomic data, radiology, and all those, and be able to link all this data as needed with the storage which has been stored, and to be able to use AI to predict. Is really that's the total ecosystem that we talk about. Now, it doesn't mean that all the data has to be in one place. It could be digitally distributed across multiple devices, but cohesively is one unit that can be used at any moment. What are the characteristics of such a system, ecosystem? Of course, like any other system, whether it's going to be in avionic, which is really a safety issue, is the key in avionic, whether it be the home automation or aerospace, or in this case, in precision medicine, security, of course, privacy, specifically in medical field, privacy is a key. The HIPAA policy is important. And like any other system, interoperability, scalability, be able to scale the system, be able to maintain it, how useful it is, usability, what are the interfaces to the UI of it, how can a patient have access to it, how could the medical centers have access to it? Reusability, be able to use this system if you have, like the family members, if you want to add family member, how can you reuse this model for mimic another person in your family, or maybe the same model with the same kind of data, with same trend, not necessarily, exposing your information, but the same data model can be reused for some other person. So those are really quality attributes of such a system. And then improving decision-making through better data integration. It's really at the end, you have to make a decision. Challenges that comes with it, certainly heterogeneity of the devices, which cause interoperability issue. Sharing of this diverse data, how that data is being shared across these heterogeneous devices. The data exchange, the data model. The data model could be completely different from one center to another center. Accessibility, how to use the ETL, the privacy, security. These are all challenges that face us when you're creating this heterogeneous data. And then, of course, the fragmented patient record. Some of my data could be at my doctor with the notes and treatment results. It could be in a laboratory, some blood test in some other lab. Maybe I use a different, hospital emergency room. Maybe I used an urgent care somewhere. So these are really fragmented data everywhere. That's a challenge to bring them together. And as you bring that data together, certainly vulnerability of data is in question, right? You don't want that data be vulnerable to, the safety issue and be able to lose the patient data. To address these challenges, I introduced a layered architecture taxonomy, which unified the interoperability and privacy, the two key attributes of healthcare, electronic healthcare record. And that's the taxonomy I introduced. This taxonomy will address many of the challenges that we mentioned, from privacy, security, and then how you have this taxonomy create and end storage devices and UI that addresses many of the trend analysis and then heterogeneity of the devices. This taxonomy is really the foundation of creating this digital twin for real time and enhancing patient health profile. It provides an end-to-end ecosystem solution. Now, it incorporates data mesh principle to provide a decentralized data ownership. That such an ecosystem is key. The ownership of data is key. Who owns it? Who can change it? Who has audit capability? Who can see the data? Who can provide access really the ownership. And since we're talking about like patient-centric healthcare record, really patients should be at heart of it. How do you create such an environment? The data mesh gives you that flexibility to provide the ownership and data provenances. Also use the AI-driven model for delivering real-time insights and decisions. That really give you the total end-to-end solution. The ultimate objective is to build toward a secure, intelligent, and personalized precision medicine digital twin. Again, I want to emphasize the personalized system, which is very specific for you. Now, there may be many other people like you, which once you identify that similarity, you can use the model of you for somebody else. So that's reusability that is also the key. This is the taxonomy. This is copyrighted. I proposed this taxonomy earlier this year. As you can see, there are different layers in this ecosystem. You have the user layer where the actual user has the interface. Then you have the devices. Now, when you talk about device layer, you're talking about like IoT devices. Could be old, could be new. The old one may not have any interface out. Maybe it's just Bluetooth data exchange. The newer one may have the API capability to send the data out. So you have to deal with these heterogeneous devices. You got old devices, new devices. Old devices may not have any interface at all. You just go to doctor office and they download the data, into doctor system. Could be isolated system they have. You could just read the data and not be able to send it out. So you just read the data and manually write it down. Some of the old devices are like that. Some of the new devices, they have internet capability that you can send out. You can have API capable, which interoperability become easier. Similarly, at the clinical level, you have doctor offices, you have laboratory, you have hospitals, you have radiologies, you have pathologies, and you have all of those. And again, you have variation of old systems and new systems, right? Some old system may not have any interoperability. They may not have the data security or privacy, although it's secure in somebody's system, but it can be hacked. So how can you protect from privacy perspective? That's the key. Again, as you can see, it's really become very complex between the old and new devices and systems. And then, of course, where are that data kept? Is it a cloud system? Is it a local system that's being kept? And if it's in cloud, then we're going to have a trust and ledger layer where the actual data security and then the data mesh is being implemented. It can be in a blockchain, or it could be a private Ethereum or public Ethereum. Those are some implementation of the ecosystem at the end. Now, this the trust layer can interface with the cloud system to get the data and store it locally to be able to do trend analysis, be able to have user access to it for maintainability, for usability, and giving access to people to view it or to take the data out. So there are multiple ways, multiple functionality that this layer provides. So you can see this is really a taxonomy and a layered architecture, and be able to validate how do you know that it's interoperable and it's private, right? How do you test the interoperability and validity of such a taxonomy in specific, and then in general, the whole ecosystem, right? because this is an ecosystem of a digital twin. Now, although you have to interject a lot of like AI stuff into it and those, but at the simplest way, this is really a total system. So the topic of this survey is model-based testing in validating taxonomy. And what was the motivation for me to pick this literature? As you can see, I created that taxonomy, so I already had some motivation in healthcare. So this is really the early detection of cancer, personalized cardiovascular risk modeling, and rare disease identification. That's really what motivated me to start in this journey. And in this case, I want to see how this literature review can help me to test such a system. It's depend on secure, interoperable, and privacy. Reinforces the necessity and feasibility of well-tested taxonomy. The purpose of this literature review is to understand how to use model-based testing to validate digital twin in general and then layered taxonomy in specific. I picked three questions to evaluate these papers. All right. The first question is, okay, how the authors are approaching automation and integration. How are they using the model-based techniques to automate data flow-driven test generation? And that's important because that is good way of proving interoperability and privacy. And how do they integrate this automation view with the formal models that exist, like PetriNet, finite state machine, and automata, and so forth, which actually represent the data exchange workflow. So that's the first question, automation. And then the second question is fault detection, okay? How does the data flow and slice-based model-based testing strategy, they compare in terms of detecting fault, the test volume, computational complexity, scalability, and so forth. So fault detection is the second question. And cross-domain application and security implication. Data flow-driven technique, how do they apply to ensure interoperability and data provenance and privacy? So these three questions are key. Now, not necessarily every paper that I reviewed address all these questions. Some address one or two, but overall, I could get a view of how are they approaching model-based testing. Then I could deduce how that can be used in any of these questions. Okay. I tried like 20 or 30 different papers, and not necessarily every paper really addressed these questions that I wanted to get addressed. Maybe there are some other papers out there, but my time was limited, and I had to, pick a handset that I could at least put my arm around it and be able to come with some conclusion. So, as I said, some paper addressed one or maybe two, and some address some other stuff, but I think I learned from it, and I have a good understanding of this. These are literatures that I selected among 20 or 30 that I looked at. As you can see, is IEEE standard reference material, so you can see where they're coming from. It's also hyperlinked to the source for your if you're interested. I mean, not necessarily you want to go through all of those, but if the topic is interesting for you, if you like to learn more, you can always look at these papers. I have the summary here that you can take a look at. And my methodology was to look at each paper, look at their findings and conclusion. What are their contribution? The approaches to the three questions that I had, the automation, fault detection, privacy, their strengths and weaknesses. So every paper is categorized or addressed these 5 different areas, which I call it my methodology for this study. Here is really a huge chart. There are 2 pages of each of these. You can see all the areas. For the sake of time, I won't be able to go through all of these, but it's available. You can look at each paper, and if you're interested, see how and how all this methodology being addressed. There's another page, and the summary of my review is I read numerous articles and papers in model-based testing, and I learned and gained significant amount of information from this. I learned quite a bit, honestly, and that I can use in my future research and dissertation work. Beyond learning from it, I also understood that it's a complex. Model-based testing is complex, and it's very comprehensive when it comes testing of a layered architecture. Taxonomy is very comprehensive. And with the same token, if you want to look at precision medicine, digital twin, and try to validate that, it's very comprehensive. Each paper had addressed some areas, but was short in some other areas. So not one paper addressed all my questions. So that's another thing I learned from it. And not one model fits in validating the layer. So not necessarily one model is good for all the layers that we talked about, the user layer, clinical layer, device layer, and so forth. They could be, we have to use a hybrid method to validate this. And this needs further investigation of how and what model-based should be used for a total taxonomy and for digital twin in this case. Feature direction, as of now, I explored applicability of various model-based testing, such as pre-trained automaton, state machine, etc., to taxonomies. I was able to understand how to validate system and was able to see and to identify pros and cons of those papers. So that's from this survey. What needs to be done next is to relate my finding and understanding of this survey to my specific unified taxonomy, and eventually be able to have a testing strategy to validate the underlying ecosystem, which is precision medicine digital twin. So that's my feature direction. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching and for listening to this presentation. I really appreciate any and all feedbacks, no matter how good, bad, or ugly they might be. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, and have a good day.